These are the most brutal moments when poker players lose with aces. In this video, you're about to see the most brutal, soul-crushing, aces-cracking action in the world of high-stakes poker. Let's dive right in. Our first hand comes from the Poker Go Cup event with a buy-in of $25,000 and the first place promising a cool $400,000 payout. Sam Soverel opens the action with pocket eights. Daniel Negreanu wakes up with the pocket rockets and 3-bet jams for almost 400,000 chips. Sam Soverel makes a very optimistic call with his pocket pair. In this spot, Negreanu's 3-betting range is completely dominating Sam's hand. At the very best, he's coin flipping against hands like Ace-King or Ace-Queen, and at worst, he's completely dominated by stronger premium pairs like Queens, Kings, and Aces. In fact, if we're being generous and make Negreanu's range 10s plus and Ace-Queen plus, Soverel has only 37% equity. In reality, Daniel is a 4-1 favorite to win with his pocket aces, and we go heads up to the flop. The flop is Jack 6-6, and now Sam's drawing almost completely dead. With only 8% equity left, Sam only has 2 remaining outs in the whole deck.
Oh my goodness!
You all right?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna die. It's so
The
painful.
aces look
Damn.
like a lock on
All
the
right.
2 6s and a jack flop,
I
and
guess
then
I
the
still hit
8
an
on
ace,
the
right?
turn.
Wow.
Fell from diamond. Oh, please.
Dealing a physical blow to Daniel, knocking him out of his
Good
seat,
hand.
and no ace on
Now
the
you're gonna
river.
win.
Negreanu took it on the chin like a champ, but the same can't be said for the next player. Now we're at the 2014 European Poker Tour in Barcelona, and players are competing for the top prize of more than 7 million euros. It's day 5 of the event, and as we get closer to the bubble stage of the tournament, every decision and every chip counts. Mikkel Nielsen is dealt pocket aces in the hijack, and Dominic Panca is on the button with ace-king suited. Panca decides to put his tournament life on the line, and he moves all in. With only 1 player left to act, he's feeling pretty good about his chances. He can either pick up the blinds or he can get called, in which case he's going to have the best hand a lot of the time. And if one of his opponents calls with some sort of a pocket pair, we're basically looking at a coin flip post-flop. But to his dismay, Martin Nielsen snaps him off with his pocket aces. Nielsen has his opponent completely dominated, but then the flop comes. The flop is 6-3-2 with a flush draw. Nielsen's hand is still best, but Panca has picked up plenty of equity.
2 hearts on board.
Dominic Panca, so good.
He now has 9 outs. And that's one of them!
Me.
Yeah, that's pretty terrible.
Nielsen's not drawing dead. With an ace or 6 on the river, he'll make a full house. No.
Must be nice.
A brutal beat for Nielsen, who did everything right. But sometimes, poker is cruel. Losing a big pot with aces is painful enough, but when it costs you your whole tournament life, it's absolutely heartbreaking. This is exactly what happens in our next hand. We're at the EPT Scandinavian Open in Copenhagen, and players are competing for the top prize of $700,000. We're down to the final table, and Theo Jorgensen gets dealt pocket aces. At such a late stage of the tournament, there's only one thing to do, and that's to move all in. Richard Toth doesn't believe him, so he decides to look him up with Queen 9 suited. That's even worse than calling with a Queen and a 10. But
Called a race with a
10 of clubs?
He called a race with Queen 10, honey.
I know, honey. He's some online guy.
I had a set. He's supposed to bust me anyway. Called a race with a Queen 10. You're not a player.
I think he's from Florida or someplace stupid.
Called a race with Queen 10. Idiot player.
In poker, making the wrong call can sometimes pay off. Theo has an overwhelming equity advantage, and the whole crowd is cheering him on. On the flop, it seems almost certain that he'll be able to lock it in, but suddenly the turn card turns the whole room completely silent.
Theo in great position to double up here.
Oh my goodness, that is the best card that Toth could have hoped for. Now suddenly it's only a 2-1 race. He's got a straight draw and a flush draw.
Looking for a heart.
Or an 8 or a king.
And there's the 10 of hearts. And that means on the river, Theo Jorgensen has been defeated. Richard Toth has made a flush. And has actually knocked Theo Jorgensen out of the tournament.
This is absolutely amazing. And in fact, Theo had said pair the board, and it did, but he...
Speaking of busting out of a tournament in a spectacular fashion, wait till you see this next hand. Our next hand comes from the final table of the 2019 European Poker Tour in Prague. It's day 6 of the main event, and we have a late position battle brewing at the final table. In small blind versus big blind battles, both players are heavily incentivized to really loosen up their ranges, especially at a late stage of the tournament. And when both players get dealt premium hands, you know the hand is about to get heated. Young Kim 3-bets his aces, and the Hungarian pro Norbert Szécsi raises him right back with his pocket queens. Kim can go for a tricky line and just flat call, but he decides to go with a more straightforward approach. He moves all in, putting the pressure right back at his opponent. Deep down, Szécsi knows he's beat, but he just can't seem to get away from his hand. The following board runout is pure chaos.
And this is the biggest pot of the main event so far. 6.4 million in the middle, and we could be about to see a change in the chip lead. Young Kim, a 4-1 favorite. The flop. It's all diamonds, 9-8-6, and Szécsi has the queen of diamonds. He's just picked up additional outs. 11 in total, queens and diamonds all working for him. It's a flip. 4 of spades on the turn. Young Kim, 1 card away from getting the huge double up and taking the chip lead. The river is a diamond!
Wow.
The sickness, the horror, the bad beat which sends Young Kim to the rail in 9th place.
Kim never fully recovered from this hand, and he finished the tournament in 8th place, raking in a modest $83,000 payout. And his opponent ended the event in 2nd place, with a massive payout of $665,000. In this next hand, you're about to see Tony G doing what Tony G does best, and that's goading his opponent into making a mistake. This time, his victim is the high-stakes legend Dan Jungleman Cates. Cates open raises to 20,000 euros in the hijack, and Tony defends his big blind with 5-4 suited. If you want to crack your opponent's aces, this is a great hand to do it with, due to its strong nuts potential. You also have a much better chance to make a straight, since pocket aces don't block any of your outs. This is not the case with hands like Jack 10 or King Queen, for example. Tony flops trips, and he goes for a 30,000 euro donk bet. Not really a standard play, as you would usually go for a check call or a check raise in similar spots. But in this spot, it may not be a bad idea, since Dan's unlikely to put Tony on a 4. Dan makes the call, and Tony keeps barreling on the turn, this time bumping it up to 70,000. Jungleman calls again. Do you think Dan will be able to let go of his pocket aces on time?
I know I can't win. Bring a scary card. Bring like a 5 of hearts, 6 of hearts, 7 of hearts. Bring a scary card. Hearts. Heart. All in.
Call.
4.
You have a 4?
Of course.
You have a 4?
I have a 4. I'm the best. What do you think I play with?
Our next hand comes from Poker Night in America, a high-stakes cash game with $25 and $50 blind structure. Phil Hellmuth is known for his prowess in tournament poker, but cash games are another story. Much like his temperament, his cash game results have been volatile to say the least. In this hand, Matthew Glantz opens the action with Jack-8 suited in the early position, and Tony Bracey goes for a flat call with King-Jack suited on the button. Phil has pocket aces in the small blind, a great opportunity for a 3-bet squeeze. If he sizes up his bet just right, his opponents may interpret it as a bluff. He goes for a $550 bet, a relatively small 3-bet for a squeeze, but with his pocket aces, he doesn't mind giving his opponents a better price on a call. Both players give him action, and we go 3 ways to the flop. And Phil flops the mighty set. He makes a standard C-bet, but he goes for a very small bet sizing, just shy from a quarter-size pot bet. Again, he's dying to get some action here, so he doesn't mind giving his opponents a good price. You can already see potential issues with this approach though. Glantz gets out of the way, but Bracey's not going anywhere with his monster draw. And he gets there on the turn, completing his flush. Phil absolutely hates to see that card, so he backs off for a bit. Bracey could certainly take a stab at the pot right away, but he decides to go for a more tricky line. The river is a complete brick, since Bracey should never be holding a hand like 7-5 or 5-2 here. This gives Phil confidence about his set, and he goes for a tiny value bet again. Now all Bracy has to do is figure out the appropriate raise to get Phil to pay him off. Of course, Phil snaps him off immediately. You almost have to feel bad for Phil here. Almost. Phil may have gotten unlucky in this hand, but it's all in a day's work for a poker player. But what happens in this next hand, you really don't get to see every day. In this next hand, you're going to see something truly unbelievable. You're about to see Tony G being a good sport for once. We're at the final table of the 2021 $100,000 short deck event, and Tony G squares off against the Malaysian businessman and nosebleed stakes poker player Paul Phua. Fun fact, Phua didn't even start playing poker until he was well into his 40s. In the 2010s, when Las Vegas high-stakes cash games began moving to Macau, he got a chance to play against legends like Dwan, Ivy, Antonius, and Juanda. And now he's squaring off against another poker legend in his own right. Tony looks down at Ace-King of Clubs, a monster in any format, and in a short deck format where there are fewer cards and more action, it's even stronger. He limps into the pot with Ace-King, hoping to get action or even potentially trap his opponent. But unfortunately for him, Paul wakes up with pocket aces. He goes for a raise, and Tony moves all in without any hesitation. Of course, Paul snaps him off immediately. Now, just look at this crazy run out. No help on the flop for Tony, and with only 5% equity left, he's already resigned to his fate. But then something incredible happens.
Not true. Could always come running queens or clubs. Plenty of Broadway.
Yeah. There is the 7 of clubs. He said there was no way, that there was no path to victory. Here is that path. A club would end it.
Okay, give me a king.
Don't worry. I've never seen a flush like this. It'd be a miracle.
Miracles can happen. It's
Oh,
the 9 of
my
clubs!
goodness!
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is unbelievable. I'm very sorry. That's
Okay, we'll get
shocking.
Catching a runner-runner flush draw is insanely lucky to say the least. But if you play poker for long enough, you're going to encounter crazy runouts like these from time to time. But this next hand is so outrageous, it almost feels scripted, and you're likely never going to see something like this ever again in a high-stakes tournament. Next up, we're at the 2023 World Series of Poker main event, a monumental tournament with the biggest player pool in history. 10,043 players are competing for a whopping $12 million. This event will also be remembered for featuring one of the grossest coolers of all time. If this happened to me, I'd probably quit poker for good and probably reconsider all my life choices while I'm at it. Corey Kilpatrick min raises with pocket aces. In hindsight, he probably should have bumped it up a bit because you don't want to get a bunch of callers when you have aces. This is exactly what happens as he gets 3 callers and we go 4 ways to the flop. Just imagine flopping a full house with pocket aces and somehow still losing the hand. For some reason, Wisdom decides to take a stab at the pot with his pocket 5s. Robert Bogo is more than happy to just flat call here. He's in absolutely no rush, and he can just sit back and let his opponents donate their stacks to him. Corey also goes for a passive line, believing he's the one doing the trapping here. Of course, the turn changes nothing, and Bogo still goes for the slow-playing line, which I absolutely love. When you flop the stone cold nuts, you should allow your opponents to catch up a bit, or hope they're going to try some sort of a bluff to push you out of the hand. Corey also checks, having no reason to think he doesn't have the best hand here. With a jack on the river, it's finally time to go for value. Bogo leads out with a half-pot bet, and you just know there's only one way for this hand to end.
The writing is on the wall here, Shulman.
Good game.
Yeah.
I mean,
prep your eulogies.
Good story, but rough one. Early day 2 blood.
Not a good hand, unfortunately, in this situation.
All in.
There's the jam music to Mr. Bogo's ears as the 5s promptly find the muck and the snap call. Look at this.
Oh. And aces. Oh, wow. Oh, Lord.
Ace.
Yeah.
None of them are marked.
Unbelievable.
Well, it's not going to be the last gentleman who meets his maker.
But if you think poker can't get any crazier than this, wait till you see this next hand. This next hand might just be the worst bad beat in poker history, and it's not even close. Let's set the stage. It's the 2008 World Series of Poker main event, one of the most prestigious and pressure-packed poker tournaments on the planet. We're deep into the event, and emotions are high. The atmosphere is electric, and this hand only adds fuel to the fire. At the center of this chaos is Motoyuki Mabuchi, a composed player sitting on a monster hand. Across the table is Justin Phillips, who's about to become part of poker folklore. The pot's grown massive by the river, and the tensions are high. And then it happens. Mabuchi goes all in. Phillips doesn't hesitate. He snap calls. The table erupts. Even the commentators are stunned. Now, here's the question. Can you guess their hole cards? Mabuchi had pocket aces, and Phillips had the only hand in poker that could beat him, and he hit it. The odds of a royal flush are about 1 in 650,000. The odds of it happening against quad aces? Astronomical. This wasn't just a bad beat, it was poker cruelty at its finest. In our last hand, Dario Sammartino gets his aces cracked in the worst possible moment. We're at the EPT bubble stage of the tournament, and Dario is one card away from scooping up a massive pot. Dario made a bet on the flop with his overpair, and now he's considering barreling again on the turn. Since the turn card is a brick, Dario's convinced he still has the best hand. If he bets again, he can set up a comfortable jam on the river, provided the river card is safe. But instead, he checks behind, which will prove to be a big mistake. Checking allows his opponent to catch up for free on the river, which is a real danger with a number of potential draws on the board. And his opponent improves to 3 of a kind on the river. Pantling fires off almost a pot-sized bet. Dario's hand strength dwindled from a monster to a pure bluff catcher. The question is, can he make a tough laydown? Sammartino just can't seem to catch a break. But believe it or not, this wasn't even close to being his most painful moment at the poker table. Because at the 2019 World Series of Poker main event, one dealer error and one brutal ruling cost him millions. So click on this video right here if you want to find out what happened and see the dealer mistakes that cost Dario and many others an absolute fortune. We'll see you there.